Hi, Jesse.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Can
How's
you hear me okay?
hmm? Can you hear me?
Just a little soft.
Uh, maybe I'm tired. Maybe I just talk louder. Is that better?
Yes, it is. It
Okay.
probably is.
Uh, how's Pretzel?
She is doing great. Well, yeah, it almost seems like we took one step forward to take two steps back when it comes to potty training this
Yeah.
week.
Yeah, yeah.
um she's just been like yesterday. There were like five accidents in one day. um like I couldn't figure out her timing anymore. Like she was going to the bathroom like three times in an hour. And
Oh,
there wasn't play involved. She just decided to go. And I've been keeping to the 2 hour time frame.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
Okay, so she was peeing 3 times within an hour.
right.
Okay, and I know you said she had just gotten Giardia again. Okay,
Yep.
and how's she been doing with that?
She's been great.
Okay,
I
um,
Yeah.
with the peeing 3 times in an hour, you saw this consistently.
No, I mean just once.
Okay. Was this during the time when she was? Is she better from the Giardia now, or is it still kind of
She's better. She's way better because she's on medication,
okay?
and it worked right away.
Okay. Um, did this the whole peeing thing was that coincidentally like maybe on the day she just started taking her medication, or
No, it's midway through already.
okay. Um, what time was this? Like roughly in the day?
In the morning. So yesterday, I, it was the same routine. We went for a walk after her breakfast. We went to a park and just sat at the park, one of the concrete blocks, so she's not in contact with any dogs. Um, and then I walked her back. So we were probably out for an hour. Walked her back. She peed on her way back
Hmm.
before she went up. Um, and then I just put her in her play area. Um, and within the next hour and a half, yeah, she went like three times.
Okay, so you're at the park, you're sitting on the block. Um, did she use potty before you left the park?
She went party on her way home,
Okay,
which was a 10-minute walk.
okay. And she peed on the way home?
Yeah,
Okay. When she peed, was it like a long pee? Was it a short pee?
it was more of a short one. And when she came back during in her play area, the accidents, it was a it was a lot.
Okay. Um, did she drink any water?
When she got back,
Hmm.
no.
Okay. Um, well, it was just one instance, so I'm not too worried about it. I was just trying to
Right,
figure out if maybe there was something that we missed, because that's typically what happens. Is like the owner will like they'll forget that the puppy drank a lot of water after a walk or
right.
something. So if it's happening consistently, then that's a different thing. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. What I would suggest is, um, I'm not sure if you're able to, but it sounds kind of weird. But I tell people when their puppies go pee is to watch their pee if they can. Okay.
Okay. Like
Um,
how much?
so when they start peeing, if they're overhydrated, it tends to be clear. Okay. And then once they hit the end of the bladder, it starts to yellow out.
Right.
So if the
I've never seen clear pee from her.
it's always yellow.
It's
So all the
always
accidents
yellow.
that you cleaned up were all yellow.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. And it was a lot of pee.
Yeah.
Huh.
And in the evening, it was the same. Um, yeah. It was like she she woke up from her nap. I brought her outside. Well, more of my patio area and where there's artificial grass, and she's peed there before, many times. She didn't pee when she was outside. The minute she got back in, she peed.
Hmm. Was she
And
just
then in less than an hour and a half, she peed again in her playpen area.
okay? Was she distracted when she was outside?
No, she was laying down. But then again, it was also after she got her shots yesterday, so she was a
Oh,
lot more tired.
I mean, it's possible. Yeah, like so that's something I would factor in.
Right.
Okay. Um, okay, I'd keep an eye on it. When you take her out to go potty and it's on the schedule, you know, uh, I would just get used to just watching her stream,
Right.
just to ensure that it's not overhydration. Doesn't sound like it is, but it's good to know. Whenever you clean up any messes, that's always something that I always ask my clients is, was it clear or yellow? And a lot of times it's actually clear because they're giving the puppy too much water.
Okay.
So then I know that's the problem.
Right.
Otherwise, if it feels like she's peeing a lot, then I start to think UTI. Um, but it would be like consist like repeated. You just had one
Right.
instance of it, and then like she got her shots, and then there was a couple other accidents.
Um, One thing I realized, and I don't know if this is indication of anything. She has now at the habit of like during just a party break, like literally when I just bring her down, she pees at her spot, and then she has to walk 2 minutes to her poop spot. I've tried to make it in one spot. It doesn't happen. Like I can stay at the peeing spot for like 2 minutes. She doesn't poop. She has to go to her poop stop, which is like literally just 2 minutes away around the block. I'm like, fine. I can live with that, right?
Okay.
And and then we'll walk back to the apartment, which is another 2 minutes,
Okay.
and then she doesn't pee at her peeing spot, even though I bring her back. She goes into the apartment lobby and she goes into her peeing stand. But a lot of times I don't see anything, or I see like one drop.
Interesting.
And then it's the only time where I would see her like wipe her paws,
Oh,
her
sure.
back legs. Um, and she does that when she comes back to the apartment, like right outside the apartment. She does the same thing. And sometimes, like, I don't see anything, or I see maybe one drop. Is that marking her
It sounds like marking to
territory?
me.
Sorry?
It does sound like marking to me.
Okay. Like,
Uh,
how do I
it, it's
correct
it's
that?
it's very unusual because how old is she now? Like 3 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super young for it to be marking. I mean, it's marking behavior.
Right.
I agree with you, but that typically doesn't start till later on.
Right.
Not but there can always be exceptions. What you can do is she responding well to that pet corrector? Okay,
Yes.
bring it with you.
Okay.
And then be ready, have it ready when you see her going into that stance and correct her.
Okay.
Because you can correct for potty mistakes and marking, you just have to do it when the dog is doing it. You
Right.
can't do it, you can't like come back and there's a puddle and then go get it and then come back and correct her. It's already too late.
Right.
Okay, but you can correct it if you know it's going to happen, like almost guaranteed. Then you can apply an aversive to deter the behavior. Okay.
Okay.
When it comes to the pooping, I'm fine with that for now because um, I always tell my clients like if your puppy goes to a spot to use the bathroom, use it to your advantage because it makes your life easier.
Right.
Um, and then as she matures and gets older and like is able to do longer walks and do more exposure and stuff like that, you know, that may change. But for now, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Well, I actually have managed to prepare a list now that I am like she is starting to be more consistent with showing some of her behaviors.
Okay.
Um, so um, like I am so along the same lines of Potty, right? I have been carrying her out from her playpen area to when I get downstairs to her peeing spot before letting her down
Okay.
because every like there's so many times where if I just walk her out of her play area into the elevator through the lobby, that's where she'll pee even before she gets to her peeing spot. Like how do I train her to get over that? Because I don't want to be carrying her from her playpen area down to a spot
Right. So you can do a couple of
perpetually.
things. One is it's not uncommon for that to be happening until you get consistent potty schedule within the home. Okay, so it works backwards.
Okay.
So super common where owners walking down the hallway to go to the grass and the puppy's got to go, especially in the morning,
Right.
and after a long gap. So
Yep.
I'll tell them like carry your puppy down, but once the puppy is able to hold it on a schedule within the home, then you're able typically to be able to walk to the potty spot without any accidents on the way. Okay, um, if because you're not there yet in the home, right?
Right.
And that takes time. Some puppies potty train very quickly. Some puppies don't potty train very quickly. Smaller dogs like Yorkies, Malteses, and Condottiers, and all those small breed dogs tend to take longer. Okay, so
Because they're smaller bladders.
they're smaller, yeah. Like the German Shepherds, the Great Danes, the Pit Bulls, like all those bigger dogs tend to potty train faster.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not unusual. Um, so then the other thing I would do is if it's like I don't want to have to carry her, but you have to prevent the potty mistake. Is you can put a diaper on her, so when she's walking from the home to outside, if she potties, she's gonna soil herself.
Right.
Okay, so that should
Uh,
deter the behavior. Um, the only issue would be typically when a puppy soils the the pamper or whatever is I use it kind of like the crate. Remember, I was like, if she soils in the crate, I don't clean them up. I wait till the next outing. So I do the same thing with the pamper. So some of my clients will use the pamper within the home so that they don't have to worry about the dog. If they have all carpeting or something, you know.
right.
So then they'll put a pamper on the puppy, and then they'll see the puppy like squat or whatever, and I'll tell them you don't change that diaper until the outing time. Then you take it off, take the puppy out, they potty, you put a new one on, then you continue with your schedule. So then it's kind of the same thing as the crate where the puppy has to like have that on them, and it's
Right.
supposed to deter the potty mistakes. So that would be the other option.
The
Otherwise,
Pampas soaks it up though. Like, would would they be
they still get
gross about?
uncomfortable in my experience.
Okay.
Yeah, they still get uncomfortable, and like sometimes they freak out because they're peeing, but it's like right there,
Right
you
there.
know.
Okay.
So, um, I believe it tends to work better with males than females, but uh, that's another possibility.
Okay.
And they even have some that are like reusable. So I
Oh,
think it's just
right.
like it's like the band, and then you replace the inside or something like that,
Right.
so that you're not buying packs and packs. But it's super rare that someone actually uses like the diaper approach. But I just give it to people as an option.
Right. Yeah. Uh, Knowing me, I probably wouldn't. I'll
Yeah,
carry her until she gets
I'll
in.
just tolerate it's. I mean, she's a small dog, luckily,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not uncommon until she's potty trained within the home and
Okay.
can hold it on a schedule and be consistent. Chances are you're going to be carrying her outside,
Right.
right? And then in the in between walks, like throughout the day, if she's okay with walking through the hallway and not making mistakes, that will help you because she's capable of doing it. It's just at certain times,
Right.
she's if she's really got to go, it's going to be harder for her. So
Right. Yeah, it's specifically, it's not so much at the 2 hour mark. It's more of, and actually, I don't, I don't think that she's been able to hold the 2 hour mark. Um, actually, so I'm starting to watch that again. Because she used to be able to tell me, like, especially when she had diarrhea, that she had to go. But that was more like for pooping. She hasn't gotten in her head that peeing is so outside as well. Um, so I'm gonna try continue that. Creating her if she's peeing at the 1.5 hour mark and creating her for the rest of the 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes so she holds that 2 hours. Um, yeah, and peeing in the hallway, it's largely like um, when I walk her down the hallway after a meal, like 30 minutes after a meal, or like she's been in a crate or a kennel for a really long time when I'm at work and I let her out. So,
Okay.
um,
So yeah, I'll just plan for those times that you have to carry her out. And for the after the meal, what if you tried walking with her like 20 minutes after her meal,
right,
a little bit earlier, to see how
right,
that works for her? Um,
okay,
okay. Yeah. No, it's good to recognize when you know she's gonna have troubles. If she's been in her kennel for like 4 hours or something, I would agree with carrying her out or whatever.
yeah,
So yeah, that doesn't sound out the ordinary to me.
okay. Um, the other thing is also like how do I like she has been this week particularly she's been barking a lot and for longer periods of time when she is in her kennel when I'm working. Like so when she's been in there for an extended period of time, like she would just go on and on and on.
Um, so it sounds like she's coming into her own, right?
Sorry,
She's
she's
coming
what?
into like she's getting how'd you say she like you said like I think you mentioned earlier like you're seeing more of her kind of personality or her characteristics, right?
Oh,
It,
got it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's why I tell her like when people get their puppies and like it's a really good puppy, I'm like gonna change, you know.
No.
And it goes from like being very quiet to all of a sudden they're being very yappy.
Yeah.
So, um, so you put her in the kennel for work, and when does the barking start?
Usually like an hour and a half into
Mm,
her in there.
okay.
Because when she goes in, now, well, actually, this week was also the first time like she would, like I'll say, go to a crate and she'll walk in herself.
Hmm.
That's never happened before, so that's a good thing.
Hmm.
Um, and typically after she goes in, she's tired, right? She'll be napping, so she'll nap for like an hour and a half. That's where she's quiet, and it's when she's awake, when she wakes up, then she'll be like, okay, I'm bored, right? So let's bark.
So you can correct that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you use the pet corrector, I think chances are it's not going to work. I mean, you can
Okay.
try it.
Right.
I'm not saying don't try. I'm just saying it's probably not going to work. Is I sent you the bonker videos, right? Okay.
Yes.
Is you can bonk the kennel.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You can like I get a few of them. I tell people at least 3 to 5. Um, and like let's say she starts barking. If possible, you would want to correct the moment she starts barking. Okay.
Okay.
So if you let it happen for 15 minutes and then you decide, okay, I've had enough, and then you correct it, she's gonna learn that she can bark up to 15 minutes.
Right.
So as soon as
Okay.
that first bark comes out, I go get the bonker. She's like in a separate room or something, or is she with you?
I, okay. So she's not. She's still in the same room.
Okay.
She's in my living room. And she's not far from my workstation.
Okay.
Um, and I actually this week was when I was thinking of because she's still in her playpen area. I've just extended that playpen area. But this week, well, before all the potty mistakes, I was intending to like just block off areas that I don't want her to get to and give her access to the rest of the apartment. And then relocate her crate to the second bedroom. Um, But again, that was before all the Potty mistakes. So I'm wondering if I should just hold it for a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, you're giving her too much freedom too quickly
Okay.
because she's not potty trained yet. So it's going to work
Okay.
against you. You know,
Okay.
I
So
think what
keep
you
her
had
in the
originally,
cage.
what you had originally was good.
Okay.
The only thing I would change is the kennel location. Okay,
Okay.
now you can do one of two things, because if you change the kennel location to the second bedroom, and you close it, what I do is I take the kennel and the opening of it, I'll point towards a wall, and I only give a little bit of space so that the bark doesn't resonate. Okay,
Okay.
because it's going to hit the wall and it's going to help, like, buffle it. And then I take like a blanket or a heavier towel and I drape it over all the rest of the kennel.
Yeah.
Okay, or like my other trainer said for her puppy, she just put his kennel in the closet, so it had all her clothes and stuff. And she did a similar approach where she put the opening towards the wall, so when he would bark, it was being muffled by the clothing and the blanket and everything like that. So so she ends up barking, and she might, dogs can bark forever, but
I realized.
yes, is event they will, one, get tired of it and learn, like, I can bark here all I want, nothing's gonna happen. Or two, you could keep her where she's at, and then you just have your bonkers, and then the moment you hear her, like, even whine, and you know that whine is gonna turn to a bark, you correct at the whine. Okay, people wait for the bigger thing. I correct at the smallest thing because that's a
Right.
lot easier. Okay, so if she starts to whine, I get up and I whack the kennel, and you're gonna see her get startled and like what was going on, and she might try to smell afterwards. Then I just walk away, go back to working, and then she might go back to sleep. And then 2 hours later, she wakes up and she's like starts to whine again because she's bored or something. I go and whack the kennel again, and come back, go back to work. And then, an hour later, I go to the kennel and I open it and go, let's, all right, break, let's go. Now I let her out to go potty. But you can correct the behavior from within the kennel. It's not going to make the kennel a bad place
Okay.
because,
I was gonna ask. That was my next
yeah,
question.
everybody thinks that it's not the case. Because in order to make something negative for a dog, it has to be during the entire time, right? So when
Okay.
she's in the kennel, if she whines and you whack the kennel, that's a split second of negative, right? And she could be in there for 3 hours. So zero point 0.5 seconds of those 3 hours was uncomfortable, but the rest of the 2 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, and half second is fine. That
Right.
that's what the dog goes by. If you made the experience of the kennel unpleasant for the entire 3 hours, that would make it a negative.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and I never do any yelling. I don't do any kind of frustrated energy. I always just approach the kennel, whack it very firmly, and then if I see it deters the dog, then I walk away. Okay. If you like whack the kennel and then like she whines again, I again, you know, until eventually you see her go like, okay, I don't like that. Then I walk away. Okay. So then she starts to think, if I whine and bark, it's going to get me something unpleasant, not something that I want. Okay. Now it's possible that the whacking of the kennel won't be effective. Okay. Then we have to escalate to the next thing, but we won't know until you try it.
Right.
But that's why, and I sent you the videos on the bunker, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Did you watch them?
Yes.
Okay. Did you watch the one with the trainer and the puppy?
Yep.
Did you see how hard he hit that puppy? Okay.
Yeah.
So he put a very considerable amount of force behind that correction, but you saw the immediate change in that puppy's behavior, right? And a lot of people go, "Oh my God, that puppy looks scared." And I go, you know, there's a difference between fear and caution. Okay, caution is just, what do I need to do to avoid a consequence? Fear is an actual, like, I'm scared of this type of thing, right? Now, in the dog world, actually, who was it? I just had it recently. I think it's a dog that's coming tomorrow. Um, anyways, the dog attacked the other dog in the house.
Right.
Okay. And the other dog, the one that got attacked, didn't want to go into any room with the attacking dog. Okay. So that dog put a lot of caution and fear into the other dog. Okay. Saying, like, you don't come into a room when I'm in it. And the other
Right.
dog is complying. Okay. Now, to us, it's really bad, because those are two dogs that live with one family. Okay. But in their world, that's how it works.
Right.
Okay. So when we do these corrections, they have to be meaningful. Otherwise, you're like whapping your dog all the time and it doesn't mean anything. And then you get pissed off because the dog's not taking it serious, right? And then you get angry and then it's coming from a negative place, you know? So,
Oh, it's happened. It's already happened to me. Like, so I correct any behavior that I don't like. Um, by first by verbal, right? And she responds to hey. And that hey, if she doesn't respond the first time, she keeps doing it. The hey just gets louder and more frustrated.
mhm.
Um, and like, so I've been like, she's also been barking. I mean, it comes from a place of excitement, right? She barks nonstop when I'm prepping her food until she gets her food.
Okay, yeah.
The minute she starts barking, like, okay, I've tried the pet corrector, doesn't really work.
Hmm.
I've tried hey, I've tried quiet, I've tried holding on to food until she is quiet before I give it to her. Um, and now what I'm doing is I'm just prepping food away from her sight,
But you're avoiding the problem.
but I'm avoiding the problem exactly.
Yeah, so the reason why the other stuff isn't, that's why I said with the pet corrector, I said it can work, but a lot of times it doesn't work.
Right.
Um, because dogs bite each other and they bite their puppies,
So bonking is the way.
is the equivalent for the human to bite the puppy. Okay.
Okay.
Because so hey, it's kind of like for me growing up. If my mom said don't do that, all it was don't do that. But
Right.
then she spanked me, right?
There's no physical consequence to that.
Correct.
Right.
So, but for as a human, I could attach the spanking 2 hours later with the fact that she said don't do that 2 hours
Right.
prior, right? I could do that. Dogs don't. So for and I actually on my YouTube channel, I have a playlist. I think it's called Mothers Correcting Their Puppies,
Okay.
and I suggest it's like 10 videos in that playlist. Is that you watch
Okay.
them because
Okay.
like for dogs, like a lot of dogs don't care about barking. Like they'll sleep through a barking dog, you know. But like let's say the mom did care about the puppy barking, she would just go up and bite him or her.
Right.
Shut up. That's what it is. And the puppy would yelp and run away, and then she'd go and lay down and go back to sleep. Okay? So this is why dogs have issues. Is because when people get puppies, they don't give them the discipline that they're supposed to have, which is
Right.
physicality. So that's why I have a job. So a lot of I get a lot of dogs. Like I have a dog right now, who's just a year, and they were doing the food stuff, right, all the positive stuff, and it wasn't working. This dog was a lunatic, and he was very friendly, but man, he was just crazy. And they started their first class on Friday or Saturday, I believe, and we're doing e-collar, and by the end of the class he was sitting there like completely relaxed, and they're like, oh my god, like this was so
You never
quick.
seen
I'm
that
like,
before. Right.
because now we're doing discipline that he understands, right?
Right.
And everybody kept judging them. You can't hurt your dog, you can't put the e-collar on your dog, you can't put a prong collar on your dog. But the owners were miserable because they're going by what everybody else was saying,
Right.
right? They're saying positive, positive, positive. And I said, positive is good if you want to see it again, but it does not work for things you do not want to see again.
Right.
Okay, that's how that works.
Right.
So if I was in school and I got good grades, my mom said, I'm going to throw you, a root beer float party with your friends. Right? Awesome. That was a long time ago when root beer float parties were
That was very
awesome.
specific.
Um, and then if I didn't get good grades, you're not going to see your friends for a month. You're not going to play video games for a month, whatever, to motivate me. And so it's a balance of both, right? So it's the same for dogs. Um, is the bonker is the equivalent, but that's why I send that video to people. It's completely natural for a human to have hesitation on physically correcting their puppy. It's perfectly normal, okay? Because
Right.
you do not want to hurt your puppy. My mom didn't want to hurt me, but she still spanked me, okay? And sometimes the puppies yelp, and sometimes I cried. But it's like if you don't want that to happen, you don't do the behavior. It's
Right.
that simple, okay? Because then people, and though typically those that were raised the same way that I was with the spanking get it very quickly because they're like, yeah, I cried and I still got spanked, or my parents knew that I was gonna cry, but they still spanked me because they knew this is for your benefit, you know. So going into it, yeah, the puppy might yelp, but the puppy will yelp if the mom bites him too, but they're very indifferent. They don't put the emotional attachment to it. What I do suggest, with approaching with the bonker is you only do this for behavior stuff. You don't do this for obedience. Okay, so like if you said sit and Pretzel didn't sit, I wouldn't bonker for
Right.
that. That's a different thing.
Right.
Okay, but if it's like jumping, barking, nipping, biting, whining in the kennel, that is because it's just don't do that. Okay, don't be deterred if you hear a yip. Do not console her if she runs away scattering. Okay,
Right.
because let's say you correct her and she runs away. Okay, you're like, oh my God, she's gonna be scared of me. Don't worry about that because that's one moment, that's 1 second out of a 24-hour day with you, right? So then she's gonna go, oh, but mom walks me, she feeds me, she plays with me, she cuddles with me, right? All those things amount to a very large percentage of positive to balance out that one split second of negative, okay? But you do not want to have yelling involved. The yelling is actually more harmful than the physical consequence, okay?
Why so though?
Because of the energy.
Okay.
Like for me growing up, I was just spanked. And I have people, because I'm very, like behavior stuff is always very interesting for me. So like I have friends, we were all raised the same, we were all spanked, right? And I have friends that are like, yeah, I'm gonna spank my kids. And I have friends that are like, I would never spank my kids, it's terrible. And I talk to them like, tell me about your experience with being spanked. They're like, oh, there was like all this yelling and like blah 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 blah, right? It wasn't so much the spanking, it was the energy around the spanking that made it very negative for them, or it was uh, overdone
Right.
because the parent was angry, right? So I'm lucky that I had my mom was very balanced with her corrections to me. And yes, some were more, how do you say, I don't want to say over it, but some were more like more firm, more repeated because she had to drive a point across. But the way that it was done was like I look back, I'm like, yeah, like it got like I had like looking back, I have no issue with it, you know. But there wasn't any yelling, there wasn't any screaming, there wasn't any. I never felt like it was over the top, like super crazy. I always felt like that was appropriate to my behavior.
Right.
That's the main thing. Is that if you're angry, you're gonna either do too much, or you're gonna be screaming or yelling while you're doing, the action itself. Dogs, even when it looks really bad because dogs growl and snap at each other. But like I've had dogs like that, and nobody's bit. There's no punctures. There's no blood. There's maybe a little
Right.
bit of saliva, but but it looked really bad. You know, Dogs are very good about, when they do a bite, whether or not they make contact and all that stuff. They're very precise. So humans are imprecise. Um, but I've all my anything that I tell you here, I've done with my own personal dogs,
Right.
and my dogs. Oh, Like I brought my pit bull to help a client last week, and like you see her, and she is the calmest, chillest dog. Okay, and she came to me at 3 months, a terror. I'm her fourth owner. Okay, because nobody could handle her, and it's because nobody wanted to correct her.
Right.
Now she's the chillest dog, and like she just like lays at my feet, and like whenever she's super passive energy, because she's had a lot of rules. But she's also like, if I give her the freedom, we'll run around and play. You know, I pottied all my dogs the same. I've corrected them when they were puppies. Everything that I tell you to do, I've already done with my personal dogs, and I do
Right.
with everybody else's dogs. And I get a lot of dogs and puppies that had failed trainers because they stay away from these things. And then I come in and I go, no, you absolutely can. You just have to make sure you do it correctly.
Right.
That's why I say do it the moment you hear something and not wait for it. Because
Right.
everybody gives the puppy or dog the opportunity to be a good dog, but I take every opportunity to make the dog be a good dog. Okay?
Yeah. So the thing with correction is one thing I've noticed, and especially when I have the pet corrector, she recognizes it. She recognizes the red canister, right? And so
Oh, yeah.
there are times where I don't necessarily have it on me, or that say I'm playing with her and she starts nipping or biting at my fingers,
Mhm.
right? I don't have it with me. I stand up, I take the canister, she recognizes it and she stops.
Yeah. You still correct. You can still correct.
But it's not in the moment of her biting though.
Yeah, but she's still in the mindset.
Okay.
Okay, so there's an exception, and it's a super common question. What you just said is, let's say um, she's running around yipping and barking. Okay, and by the time I get to the corrector, she's across the room from me, and she sees me pick it up, and she's looking at me, and then she
Right.
just sits down and stops.
Right.
She's still thinking about it. You can correct.
Okay.
Okay. Now, let's say she does that. You pick up the corrector and you get a phone call. You pick up the phone call, you hang up, too late.
Late.
Because
Okay.
now there's been a disconnect. Okay.
Right.
So, what I would do is if I picked it up and she stopped, I would still walk over immediately thereafter and correct her. Okay. So, to give you an example, I had a Samoyed that I trained a long time ago. And this was back when I used to board dogs out of my house. So, this was like 5, 6 years ago.
Right.
And I remember I woke up one night and I just heard water, and I heard him whining. And then I woke up and he was running up and down across my house peeing. Okay, so he was panicking. So I opened my front door and he ran out and he peed. So I mop up the mess or whatever. And then I go out and he's standing at the bottom of my stairs. And I go, Sam, come on, let's go. And right away he gave me that look of like, nah, because it was snowing, it's his weather. So then he just started zooming around the yard.
Right.
So I had to go out and it's snowing, and it was like early on where it wasn't like super cold. It was just cold enough that it was snowing, and I go out and I'm pursuing him you watch Caesar, right? I think you sent me that
Mm-hmm.
picture. That was a funny picture. Um, is I don't know if you ever seen him where he goes like this, and he like walks towards the dog as he's pointing at them, and the dog might like sit down or something.
Yeah.
So there's in some episodes, I know more in the older ones, I haven't seen his new stuff, where he'll walk towards the dog and he'll keep walking as the dog's moving away, and he'll keep walking, right? And he'll do it. And it'll say like 20 minutes later, and they'll skip ahead and like the dog will be calm. Okay? Is I was doing that to that dog that night, okay? And for like 10, 15 minutes, he's running around and I'm pursuing him and I'm pursuing him. And then finally he sits down and he puts his ears back and he goes like this, okay? Because he was trying to play a game, and I was telling him, I'm not going to play your game, okay?
Right.
Now I do Caesar Milan method, so like I did the hand correction that he does, so I corrected him, and he yelped, and then he ran inside my house, okay? The next day we go outside, I take him out to go potty with my dogs, and then he gets that look, and he goes like this because he's going to do it again, and I went,
Right.
"Shh," and I walked towards him, and he sat down and put his ears back and didn't do anything. Okay, because I spent the time the night before where I pursued him, and he learned Jesse's not going to let this go. Jesse's going to
Right.
keep following me, and then I'm still going to be corrected. If I would have stopped when he put his ears back, because everybody does that, they think that they can avoid the correction if they just do this,
Right.
right? And then as soon as you walk away, they go back at it again, and you walk towards them, they do this, and then you walk away, they go back at it again, right?
Right.
Because they learn, they go like, oh, like yeah, I do that, and then you stop and you leave me alone, and then once that's done, I can run around again, okay? So, but you have to keep them within the context. Had I stopped in the pursuit to pick up a phone or something, I lose the moment. Okay,
Right.
and this was up to 15 minutes after pursuing him, but I did it nonstop. So he kept it in his brain of like, oh, this isn't a game. Like he really wants me to stop what I'm doing. Okay. Um, questions?
So do you correct with bonking or the hand gesture?
I do the hand, but it's really difficult for people to do.
Why so? I mean, not really knowing what the hand is, like even though it's that gesture, but I don't know
So
how.
so what Caesar does, if you watch him, if he takes his hand right and he goes like this, to mimic a
Right.
dog bite. So go like this with your other hand.
Okay.
Okay, now take your other hand like this,
Yeah.
and then go like this.
And what's this? Is this the head? Is this the body? Is this
This well,
the
this
legs?
this is just for you to feel it.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So, let me see if I can do it. Can you hear that?
Not really.
No. So on my from here, like one that's that hurts, but there's a thud. Okay.
Okay.
Like I'm doing some considerable uh, force here. Okay.
Right.
Is anywhere here or on the ribs to the butt, that soft area, is where that is very effective because
Okay.
there's no like if you do the ribs because it's the ribs, there's some protection there. For
Right.
smaller dogs, you can get away with almost anywhere. I just stay away from here.
Okay.
Okay, but here, you know, with smaller dogs, anywhere else, but I tend to stay away from the ribs because you may end up hurting yourself more than the correction actually means.
Okay.
But you're mimicking a dog bite,
Okay.
right? And it's essentially doing what the pet corrector would do or the bonker. Okay. Now the reason why I don't do this a whole lot with people is because it's the hardest for them to do
Right.
because they think they're
All
hitting their
right.
dog.
Contact. Yeah.
The bonker, like that's still difficult for people to do, but there's a disconnect,
Right.
you know, and it's a towel.
Right.
It's a rolled up towel. Like what's going to happen, right?
Okay.
So it's the easiest for me to teach to someone because like when I used to do my in-home puppy stuff, like I would demonstrate for them and I would tell them like I would have the owner put their hand up and I would do that and they go like holy crap. I'm like yeah, like it's
Right.
it's when done correctly it's a fair level of discomfort.
Okay.
Okay. But typically what people would do is they would do this and then they would push. So it's kind of like a slap, right? Where you make contact and you go. Is I just come in and I'm back right away. Or people would like take the arm back and do this, and it's not about that. Like it's literally just here.
Right.
It's the wrist. But I've done this for so long that I can get a good jab in there with just a flick of
Right.
the wrist, and it like the dog will like stop.
Okay.
That's why, and I think if you have Disney Plus, the old
Don't.
you don't. Oh, the old
No.
Caesar Milan is on that. Is interestingly enough on that service,
Okay.
and I think that's where he did like because that's him unfiltered. That's when he first came out. Now he's very filtered. He says a lot of good stuff, but he's softened up a lot. So,
Right.
um, but
Yeah. His videos these days have been all around energy.
which I agree with. Like like it is a
Like
part of the process, but unfortunately, in my opinion, I think he's stepped away from the true spirit of animals um, and it's all about peace, love, and joy, which is not a concept that animals, I don't believe, really understand. It's all about just instinct and a harmony in the sense of like, um, so like I used to have, like 5 dogs, 3 guinea pigs, and a cat. Okay, and I used to have a picture of all of them eating together. Okay,
Right.
the cats didn't screw with the guinea pigs. The dogs didn't screw with the guinea pigs. Everybody was just harmony, but there was harmony because I was in charge. Okay,
Right.
so my dogs knew they couldn't do anything. The cat knew they couldn't do anything, and the guinea pigs are the prey, so they don't need to do anything, right? But so in the animal world, they're making decisions based on instinct. So like, if there's a pond of water and there's an alligator in that pond of water, the animals won't drink from there because they know. Okay. Now, when they see the alligator leave the water, all of a sudden you see all the animals come in and start drinking because the threat is gone. Okay. That's actually a harmony, in my opinion. And then when the alligator comes back, boom, everybody's going to leave again. So dogs are in that world. Just because they live with us doesn't change anything. They're still animals, and if left to be feral dogs, like in I think South America, there's a video on my YouTube channel that I think I put on a playlist, where they're fighting for a female in heat, and they tear each other up, like they're just bleeding, like it's brutal. So that's true dog. But when you get a dog that looks like Pretzel, it's hard to imagine that that would be her instinct, that would be her nature, right?
Actually, I actually, interestingly enough, I don't feel that way. I still feel just, I think when I hear her growling, when I hear her, like, especially when she's growling, when she is fighting or nipping,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm like, no, she can absolutely have the potential um, to go crazy. So, yeah, I don't have the preconceived idea that just because she looks cute,
Mm-hmm.
she cannot cause damage. Um, so, like, the other thing as well is, like, how do I, okay, so she walks great, like, amazing when she's on the gentle leader. She still fights it, right? She still stops and sits, or she just drags herself on the ground, hoping that it will come off. But for the most part, like, she walks great when she's walking. Like, she doesn't sniff around. She's just onward, and her head is up, and she walks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now she's learned that, oh, she only gets treats when she puts on gentle leader, but she is refusing the treats. She's like, I don't even want the treat because I know you're gonna have to put the thing on me.
Yeah.
So I've and she doesn't even want treats as she is walking. Like when she's pulling back, I tug, she moves forward, she releases, I give her a treat. She's refusing the treat now
Yeah.
because she's like, it doesn't work on me anymore. And so, well, every day I find new ways to put it on her. Now I just put it on her when she's still in her crate, but she wants to get out. And the only way to get out is to put that on. So
Okay.
she doesn't even fight it, actually,
Okay.
when I'm putting it on her now. But when she's back on her flat collar, which is what she is on when she's just doing a quick, like,
Potty
5 minute
break.
potty,
Mm-hmm.
it reverts back to that behavior of like sniffing and pulling and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, so should I just be putting on the gentle leader with every walk when she's out?
It's up to you. I mean, if you like the control that the gentle leader gives you, I don't see a problem with it. The only problem I see is I think maybe you had mentioned she won't potty with it on or something.
Oh, now she's fine.
Okay, good. So yeah. So just so that you're aware, I don't like the word dog training. Okay, because training implies that sometime it stops, or the things that we use stop, like the
Right,
gentle leader or whatever tool that the owner is using. And that's not the case because,
right,
in my opinion, like, and I hate that trainers push this because realistically speaking, for the average person, they're not going to put the amount of time to train their dog to that degree. Okay. So I look at the either the gentle lead or whatever tool that the owner is using. I go, when you need it, you use it. Okay. So if the dog's great in the house, you don't need it. But if your dog's terrible on the leash, you need it. Okay. Um, and if you favor and you're like, I really like how she behaves with this gentle leader on, you take with the gentle leader on. Okay. There's nothing good or bad about it. If someone says like, oh, like you should train your dog until they don't need it anymore, like they're stupid, they don't know what they're talking about. Everybody's got their own commentary. I've been working with dogs for 10 years, and it's the very people that are saying if you have a good relationship with your dog, they wouldn't do that. If you put in the time necessary, your dog wouldn't do that. If you did positive only, your dog wouldn't have done that, are the same people that will tell you to kill your dog.
Right.
They'll say, oh, put your dog down. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's really mind boggling. Um, so
Is the is a way to get her, to have the same behavior on her flat collar, to eventually get her old enough to understand, like train her on the heel command.
okay,
And I've not even watched videos on that yet.
okay.
And
So heel is a very formal heel is a very strict um, looking command. Okay. Um, if I think you wrote, were you writing notes down earlier?
yeah.
Uh, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a video. I think it's called the heel command, how to use it, or something like that.
Okay.
And it shows how I teach heel. Okay, well, not how I teach. Like it shows what my heel looks like with my clients. So
Right.
you'll see me. I think I'm walking like 4 dogs off leash in a heel, and you're gonna go, holy crap. Okay, like that's what heel is. Okay,
Right.
most people's version of heel is not that. Okay, it's very sloppy. It's not to that degree. But I don't worry about formal obedience, meaning functional obedience, until 6 months.
Okay.
Okay, that's when you spend more money.
Got
Okay,
it.
because so whenever anybody comes to me and they're like, train my puppy, because they have these high expectations for their puppy. I'm like, your puppy's in kindergarten right now.
Right.
Okay, at 6 months we can get to college level. Okay, that's not a problem. So that's
Got it.
why I was like, don't worry about these things right now. Obedience stuff can always be taught. I've trained dogs at like 8 years old. I've trained dogs at a year old. I've trained dogs at 5 years old. Age doesn't matter with how I train. Okay. Now,
Right.
if the owner has issues with the methods that I use, and they go, no, I want you to train my dog only using food, and I go, no, because you want this result, which you'll never
Right.
get with food. Does it
Right.
make sense?
Yeah.
When it comes to like everything that I get what you're dealing with right now, think of your puppy as a 3 to 4 year old child
Yeah.
forever, forever,
Forever.
forever.
Okay.
Okay, because a human 3, 4, 5, 6, 18, 21, 30, we mature. Your dog is permanently a 3 to 4 year old child.
Okay.
Okay, so now when you have your expectations, you look at it that way. Okay, as a 3 to 4 year old child, you have to repeat things a lot. You have to tell them what to do. You have to
Right.
make them do things, right? So that's where aversives come into play. So Pretzel is an animal. She is capable of making her own decisions. Okay, but now she's a 3 to 4 year old child making those decisions. Okay,
Right.
so have you seen those videos that are popular now where they'll put a candy in front of the kid and they'll go, don't eat the candy. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be back. I'll be back in 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And you see the kid, they're touching, and then sometimes they just eat it because it's a 3 to 4 year old kid, right?
Yeah.
That's dog. Okay, so just imagine that with Pretzel. Is even in the future, if you did more advanced training, that's why I said I don't like the word training because it
Right.
implies you would not need to use those tools anymore, right?
Right.
The difference is the level of control you're going to get is exponentially greater than what it is now because like the gentle leader is positive reinforcement methods. Their ceiling is the lowest that there is. Okay, but we use it for puppies because for puppies under 6 months, most people are uncomfortable with using bonker, the hand correction, e-collar, prong collar, slip chain.
Right.
So I go, I'm not even gonna argue with the owner. I'm gonna let them wait till 6 months when the puppy is pissed them off and drove them crazy, and they're like, we did all this other nice stuff and it didn't work. What is there? I'm like, here, this is what we do now. Okay,
Okay.
okay. So
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, everything that
Um,
you're dealing with is normal.
okay.
Okay.
Last one, but really quick one. Shower tips. Like, when I give her a bath,
Mm-hmm.
she freaks out during the bath, before the bath. Well, when I put her in, I bathe her in the kitchen sink now, because that's where I have leverage when I'm standing
Mm-hmm.
over her versus a bathtub. Um, uh, she freaks out. She even freaks out after I take her out and after I try and blow dry her. Um, the only way I can blow dry her is to keep the dryer on the table and it's not moving, and I move her around. But even with that, like, she's constantly trying to get out of the way. Um,
Yeah, because it's unnatural for her. How many times do you
right.
bathe her a month?
Well, the only reason why I'm bathing her now is because of the Giardia medication. Like, to bathe her on day one of her medication and the last day.
Okay.
But typically, the vet is saying no more than once a month.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, once a month. Okay.
Yeah.
So the blow drying stuff, like she's not meant to be blow dried. That's
Right.
why you're getting all that squirming stuff. Okay. So for things like that, I usually go the um, positive reinforcement approach. But
Okay.
and this actually goes back to earlier about your treats. Is are you using dog treats?
During bathing time, no,
No,
not
but I
at
mean
all.
for the gentle eater. When you said she's rejecting the treats, are you using regular dog treats? Okay,
Yes.
so I personally use human stuff.
The food. Okay.
Yeah, cheese, not broccoli, cheese, bologna, hot dog, pepperoni, chicken strips, chicken sticks, whatever. I use very high value stuff.
Okay.
Okay, um, because the reason why she's not taking the treats is because the negative experience of it is overriding what the value of the positive stuff is.
Right.
Okay, so that's normal, which is why as strict as I am,
But she doesn't get those treats any other time, though.
right? But have you ever had a dog treat?
No.
They taste like shit. Okay,
Okay.
so they might smell really good, but they taste like shit. So I'm like, that's why I use the human stuff.
Right. Right.
Okay, and maybe she doesn't take the human stuff. Then I go, okay, cool. Then I'm not going to give you anything. You're just going to wear it, right? But again, dogs are meant to be leashed. They're not meant to be collared. They're not meant to have all these devices on them. It's we
Right.
do that because it's part of responsible dog ownership. So even though I'm a super strict, very strict, and I will correct the dog harshly if needed, I do things where I'm like, this isn't meant to be on you, so I'm gonna, give you something as like the highest value thing I can because you have to learn to tolerate this thing. That is a
Right.
human thing, right? So I would do the same thing with the blow dryer. I would take
Okay.
something super high value, bring out the blow dryer. She's probably not gonna like even the presence of it, so I don't even bother turning it on. And I make her, and I feed her repeatedly when she sees it. Then when I put it away, I stop. And then, the next day or later in the day, I pull it out, she sees it, and I start feeding her cheese, 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 and then I stop and I put it away. So then she thinks every time that thing disappears, the food stops, but when it's out, I get lots of cheese or whatever. Okay? And I have videos I can send you on this if you can send me an
Okay.
email. It's called counter conditioning. Okay? Now, it's possible that you can't get her to like it, period.
Right.
Okay? So, then it's a
I think
matter
you
of,
sent me a video on that already. Is it is it a person blowing
yeah,
at the dog?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You
that's
sent
counter
me.
conditioning, right? So you would do the same thing, but you would show the blower then the food, like that. and then like you show the blower food, 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 hide it, then I stop.
Right.
The issue that people have is they don't do it as quickly or as rapid fire as it's supposed to be. They typically do it really slow. So, and if you watch her video, she does it very quickly
Right.
to incentivize the dog, and then you repeat that. So you do that for like 30 seconds a day, a couple times a day or whatever, and then you build up to like the blow dryer turning on, and then she stays there and she's like excited, right? And you keep feeding, and then you build up to blow drying her and feeding, and then she's enjoying it. Okay, but
Okay.
if it's truly just too much of a negative for her, then we got to think about something else, like just getting her to tolerate it, um, because she's not meant to be blow dried.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just like for you, like I have things that I don't like, and nobody can make me like those things,
Right.
right?
And even during like showering time.
That would probably be a little bit difficult. But I'd have her on a leash though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's on a leash.
you can even use a gentle leader because that gives you the most control. It's just gonna get wet,
Right.
and use it as you bathe her, and then in the meantime, because you have to. But then in between that, you're doing the training to get her to be more accepting of it.
Right. Okay.
Welcome to having a puppy. Okay.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, but I mean these things take time.
Yeah.
They so you're not where you're at. Plus like all the other stuff you have going on with her. I don't not worried about it.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I got to get to
Sounds
my
good.
next one. It was a pleasure. If you need anything, you let us know, and then if you could please send me the email because I have to step out right after this. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. Bye.
Bye.